How's it going, everybody? I've got some more magic for you today with a, honestly, very diabolical deck. Everybody's so frequently been talking about how VV is going to be banned ever since it was mentioned that it should be soon. But I wanted to make a deck showing that you can still absolutely play the cards in Izzet that you have been without it being very impactful. Even without VV, this deck is still really, really strong, and the bans are really not going to make any difference at all. Not to mention, in my opinion, the most annoying deck that has been being played since the Final Fantasy set release has been Mono Green Landfall, not VV Cauldron. Anyway, I have made a Goben Cauldron deck. It still is at. It still primarily focuses on draw and discard, probably even more so now without VV in it. I will say that Cauldron could be cut from this deck and it would work just as well. So I've made some changes. Obviously, the biggest thing is I just removed VV altogether. It's going to be banned. We don't need it in the deck. And have put in Goben Gene Splice Savant, which is Norman Osborn, and Fleam Goben's Creation, which everybody loves already. This card's fantastic. And there are two different ways that you can build this deck and work with it. I wanted to show that it still functions very, very well, almost exactly as it was with VV in it. So I haven't made any significant, huge changes. I did take out the Riddlers and put in the Dragonautics Engineer, which if you have been playing the VV Cauldron deck or are familiar with it, this is a card that it was frequently used in it, but Riddler kind of kicked it out of the deck because it was more impactful. And like I said, you still could use Riddler in this deck because now this deck prioritizes draw and discard as its main mechanics for making large creatures. So Riddler's still really good in this if you have those. I actually just don't have them. I never played the VV Cauldron deck. I don't even have a full playset of VV. So I'm not really bothered by this banning whatsoever. But I did put Dragonautics Engineer in here because if you played the VV deck, you know, this was a good card in it because the exhaust options can be passed on to new creatures by Agatha's Soul Cauldron, so it gives relevance to the Cauldron in this version of the deck where it wouldn't have any with VV gone. The other really good reason to continue using Agatha's Soul Cauldron if you want to in this deck is because Reanimator is huge now. The new Spider-Man card that is black-blue, and Virulix also, Anti-Venom, both have impacted Reanimator, making it even more viable in Standard right now. So, Agatha Soul Cauldron is still absolutely fantastic in this deck, even if you're not passing Vivi's ability onto all of your other creatures and generating infinite mana with it. So you can keep Cauldron in. Dragonautics Engineer helps make Cauldron relevant for your own deck, aside from just what you steal from your opponent's graveyards, but it's good for both. Goben is a absolutely solid replacement for VV, and here's why. Just on the Goben side, you have an unblockable creature that lets you draw and discard once per turn. Combine that with Marauding Mako, and it's absolutely silly. Combine that with Prof's Eidetic Memory, and it's extremely, extremely powerful. Now, the Eidetic Memory triggers pre-combat. It triggers at the beginning of your combat phase, as far as when it puts the 1/1 counters on, so Goben's draw and discard effect isn't as relevant with Profs, but Profs can make Goben an absolutely gigantic unblockable creature, as well as the Mako is going to get absolutely huge as well in combination with Profs and Gene Splicer. We also do keep all of the other draw and discard effects, things like Fear of Missing Out, Steam's Core Scholar, and obviously Winter Night Story is one of the best cards in this deck, because it allows you to draw 3 and discard 2. That draw 3 gives you 3 1/1 counters from Prof's Eidetic Memory, and then discard 2, or 1 creature, allows you to get even more discard triggers on Marauding Mako, so it's a really strong synergy. Now, the other reason Goben is really, really good in this deck is Fleam. If you do manage to transform Goben into Fleam, which isn't the easiest to do with the mana base, but you can still do it utilizing Starting Town. If you're able to transform Goben into Fleam, then you can get a discount of 2 less to cast on any spells from your graveyard. So it already gives all of your non-land cards in your graveyard mayhem. So anything you've discarded with Steam Core Scholar, Winter Night Stories, Fear of Missing Out, anything you discard from the point of him being flamed, you can recast from your graveyard instead of it going away. And it gets that 2 mana discount, so you can replay all of these cards. On top of that, you have your Harmonized cards, Wild Ride and Winter Night Stories, that already have the ability to be played from your graveyard, and Fleam will discount them even if they weren't discarded this turn. So it synergizes very, very well in this deck and still works fantastically with it. Other than that, we've got a Null, which is exile target artifact or counter target artifact or enchantment spell. You could easily still use Spell Pierce. I do still have a sideboard over here. There are more nulls as well if you're sure that you're going to be playing against artifact or enchantment based decks. Into the Flood Maw to bounce your opponent's cards. This card wins games. Not only can you just bounce the thing that you need that would block your creature and stop you from winning, but you can also utilize this to bounce something with 1/1 counters on it. In a game I played just before this recording, I bounced someone's Hydra, the one that you pay mana to give it 1/1 counters, and they lost all those counters and didn't get the treasure tokens. And I've also used it to bounce things in the mono white life gain deck, things like the Essence Channeler that builds up 1/1 counters, ends up being a strong attacker, strong blocker. You can just bounce it with Into the Flood Maw and it loses all of its counters and they got to start back over. So this card is way more impactful than you may think. You just have to make sure you're not wasting it on unimportant things that, you know, your opponent's just going to replay it on the same turn or things like that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get into games. Just quick brief here. Sideboard. Talked about a few things here. We've got Torch Tower, Fire Magic, Spell Pierce, and all of that is probably negate. All of those are pretty common cards you would have seen with this kind of deck, so nothing new there. But I also included Jace Reawakened, Urus, the new Spider Spinner or Storm Spinner, and Frostcliff Siege. If you want to lean more into the Fleam side, you can utilize all of these to have a lot of fun with plotting things with Jace, having the haste and +1/+0 on creatures, different things there. There's really good synergy, so it works really well in sideboard as well, in case you need to mix up kind of the main fulcrum of the deck. Anyway, I'll go ahead and get into games, playing best of one like I normally do. Hopefully, we can have some good games with this, because this deck's really, really powerful still. Alright, we get to go first. We do have Goben and Prof, so I think this is a pretty good opening. I do want that, because having more colored land will be helpful. Excuse me. Alright, let's get Goben going. Looks like they're just going to go ahead and get rid of it right away, which is disappointing. No? Okay. Let's go ahead and go here, get Prof's Eidetic Memory going. I think getting rid of one is probably going to be what we do with our discard. Let's go ahead and get Wild Ride going in and just push a little extra damage early. Get rid of the other Profs. I think we're fine with that. So now Goben's pretty solid, and they're going to have a harder time getting rid of it. This still does hit it, unfortunately. Oh, there we go, yeah. I was about to say, did they not discard something that could actually hit it? So we're obviously going to kill their creature this turn. We want to try and even out the board. I think that's a pretty good draw, too, because that means we can eat it if we decide we want to. This is still 3 toughness, so we can get rid of it still. Looks like our opponent is playing a very similar type of deck as to what we're doing. Alright, triggers for our opponent, but their creature has summoning sickness, so they can't even attack. Oh no, they played it last turn. I'm really not paying enough attention. Okay, at their end step, we're just going to go ahead and start taking these glacial things, get them out of the opponent's graveyard. Let's go ahead and get another Goben down. We can actually get Flume this time, which is pretty nice too. We'll get the Steam card core going. Unfortunately, we had to discard both. Go ahead and get our 1/1 counters on our flyer. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this so they can't use it. May have been better targets if I waited, but I really didn't want them to be able to shoot either of my creatures. Alright, and it looks like that was enough to make them quit. Not the most amazing first game, but you can see how this version is still just a lot stronger. It would have been nice to be able to keep the Mako, but as long as we were drawing cards, we were going to be getting profs, triggers. Having the Soul Cauldron, even though we didn't have a VV or anything like that, it was still good just getting rid of their Harmonized cards, because it meant they weren't going to be able to deal with what we had. We'd be able to attack with this and keep getting in damage. This was going to be getting really big and able to block anything of theirs that it needed to. We did have Wild Ride as well. So pretty much anything we drew, as long as it wasn't land, was going to be really good. And we even had a creature land that we could animate at this point. So yeah, we were in a pretty good spot despite them being able to shoot what we had. It kind of went back and forth, but you can see how this... I definitely think Monument to Endurance is too slow in the in the matches right now. A lot of people have liked pairing Monument of Endurance with Mayhem, and I just think it's too slow. It is necessary to make sure you include non-combat damage in any Mayhem decks you try to play. I have a Rakdos Mayhem deck that I'm going to be uploading this week as well. But Monument to Endurance is just too slow, in my opinion. It's not going to get you there if you have to waste a turn getting it out onto the board. Maybe waste time actually getting things to discard once you have it. You're going to be able to ping your opponent for 3 damage, which is really nice. But you've got to also weigh the cost of drawing and getting treasure tokens as you do that. So I don't like it in the current standard meta. It's just not quick enough, in my opinion. But, yeah. Anyway, let's see if we can get a good game, too. Alright, unfortunately, opponent does get to go first, but the mana looks good, so I will keep this. Drew a Mako, which is pretty nice. See where our opponent goes from here. They're obviously playing Mobilized to some degree. Okay, goblins. Yeah, that makes more sense. Gonna go ahead and go Fear of Missing Out here. Getting rid of one of the cauldrons. Not too bad. Let's leave up blockers for now because we're probably going to need them. Hitting our Mako hurts. That's a pointless attack because all it's going to do is replace the same thing that he's getting rid of. Go ahead and get a land down. I think in this case I want to go with another Mako and then the Soul Cauldron so that we can get some more counters on it again. No big deal. Actually got rid of a creature for us, so that's pretty helpful still. We're going to take his creature just because there's no reason for us to target ours unless we need to. Also gives us the ability to pop our creatures if we need to deal damage. Soul Cauldron on his part, but I already took the one that he wanted, so he's not going to be able to do that. Okay, he realized the attack would have been pointless. Let's go ahead and do Steam Core Scholar. Okay, I am going to get rid of Wild Ride, because we don't need that right now. We can get Starting Town down. Go ahead and pass. Go ahead and make sure his is useless. Now he can take one Namako from my graveyard now if he tries to. Oh, he's getting rid of my Wild Ride. That's fair. I didn't really need it though. Winter Knight would be a much bigger loss. Dropkick Bomber may end up sending that back. Let's go with, I definitely want Profs here. Maybe we draw a land and can go Steam Core. And we did, actually. So I kind of like that. Now we get rid of Steam Core, because we don't need another one. And, yeah. Go ahead and pass forward. Get 3 counters here. I'm pretty happy with that. And we'll attack with the Steam Core because it has Vigilance. We actually still have 2 creatures in graveyard, so I'm going to try and wait on the Cauldron. We still have really good blockers here, which is really bad for them. They are getting a net gain here, unfortunately, on goblins now. He's got to use his Cauldron to try and stop mine. Oh, or he just lets it happen. Got a really nice option here with Winter Knight. We'll go ahead and get rid of Soul Cauldron and a land. Yeah, I've got 2 mana open, so that should be fine. And then what do we want to get rid of? Anything? I think Dropkick Bomber is going to be a good get rid of. That's fine. I should have stopped that, actually. That was a big mistake on my part. Yeah, no creatures in graveyard now. I made a big mistake there. Oh well, time to go ahead and attack in. And get the win. All of my creatures are going to get another attack. Obviously, he can block the fear of missing out, but it doesn't matter. Because now I have 2 more attacks with the Steam Cores, so we just win. Alright. So there's a pretty sizable game, too. Got to go up against pretty strong goblins there. I did misplay by not stopping him from putting that 1/1 counter on the Dropkick Bomber. That made enough of a difference because it is pumping his squad. But, I mean, I still was attacking with way more than lethal because we had Delirium on fear of missing out. That made all the difference. Anyway, let's go ahead and see if we can get a good game 3. Alright, we get to go first. We've got really good stuff here, so let's go ahead. I'm going to start off Mako, because we could start with Thundering Falls, but since we have a turn 1 play, we don't really want to do that. Alright, looks like the opponent finally got here. Let's go ahead and get that Mako going. They started with a Thundering Falls. I think I'm going to start with Prophytic Memory here. It's going to long-term give us the most value. Get one counter right now because it'll draw us a card, and then more when we do our draws and discards in the future. I think I'm actually going to start with Dragonautics Engineer here. Killing our Mako would be unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Yeah, that's fine, because we still get to keep the Scholar. What do I want to discard? Do I want to discard him Winter Knight? I don't think so. So let's get rid of this and this. Now our Scholar's a 4/4, and we're going to be able to Mako and Winter Knight in the next turn. Alright, so we'll start here. Now we'll pull a little bit of Winter Knight. Should be really nice for everybody involved. I will absolutely get rid of one of these Fear of Missing Outs. I could have gotten rid of two, but I think this is still just better use. We're going to put the extra counters on the Mako, because he's probably going to want to try and kill things. Okay, no, he's going Consult. But I thought it would be better to spread out counters here in this case. Next, we're looking at very likely a Fear of Missing Out into a Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Should have started with the Cauldron on that turn, I guess. I didn't realize I was playing up against Reanimator. Let's go ahead and go Fear of Missing Out here. Let's get rid of tapped land. Not the worst. We can go Mako. And Soul Cauldron. Let's go ahead and get a counter on that, I suppose, and pass for now. Might have to check their graveyard. They're probably going to get rid of the Soul Cauldron, or at least that's what I would target. Okay, got rid of the Steam Core. I don't know that's what I would have done, but, I mean, okay. Roaring Furnace is going to get rid of somebody else, unfortunately. That's not going to work in your favor. We do have a creature on their end, so I'm going to take it. Okay, they did still manage to get rid of our Fear of Missing Out, which is unfortunate, but I still have something I can put a counter on, so it's not the biggest deal. Okay, let's start with Winter Knight Stories. I would like to submit 0. Well, okay. Let's start with Fear of Missing Out, getting rid of the land. I should have played the land, but that's fine. Okay. Now we'll Winter Knight Stories, tapping this. I think getting rid of 2 is probably still better here. Let's go with these 2, I suppose. Okay, our opponent's at 2, which is pretty good. Stock up from our opponent, looking for answers because they're very nearly dead. It's going to be really hard for them to survive this next turn. He's out of creatures to block with now, though, so we just win here. No creatures on our opponent's side. We'll go ahead and take a Mako. Could go with the Dragonotics Engineer. Maybe I'll do that on the next turn just to kind of nail in how dead he is. But yeah, this is extremely over. See if we can find our Dragonotics Engineer. Alright, so we beat a pretty annoying opponent here, despite misplays on both our ends. They're going to go ahead and rope us out here, but this was good game 3. I'm going to wait until the end of the rope to kind of do my wrap-up, but we'll see how this goes. Alright, so he didn't actually end up roping us out, which is nice. I really thought that's what he was going to do, but he just stalled for a little bit there, probably thinking if there was anything he could do to try and stop that. With us having 2 blockers still, we were in a good spot. Another way we could have done that a bit differently, I'm not even sure. Like I said, we did get the Dragonotics Engineer, so I guess the other thing we could have done instead of animating our land is we could have used the other exhaust ability to create a dragon, then give them both haste. This way seemed a little bit better in my mind, I don't know. Yeah, Agatha Soul Cauldron still fantastic. Being able to grab the Dragonotics Engineer is good. I should have played the Agatha Soul Cauldron sooner so that I could prevent them from reanimating the Bahamut, but they misplayed quite a bit, in my opinion, in what they could get rid of, like obviously using the Roaring Furnace while I still had Cauldron up to make my thing bigger. They had to waste extra removal to get rid of my creatures in that way, and then I was still able to put a 1/1 counter on my other creature. There's a lot of stuff to deal with. This is really annoying. All of your creatures still have value even when they're dead. As long as you have a little bit of gas going forward, you can get around 1 blocker. And he took a lot of damage way too fast, which really helped us too. But anyway, that was 3 games, really quick games, so I apologize for that, but this deck is just fast. You're going to get through games really quick. It's why it's really popular right now with Vivi in it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know this is a truly diabolical deck because I'm just showcasing how getting rid of Vivi doesn't solve the problem, but I thought that was necessary because everybody's so excited for the Vivi ban, but Goben can just slot right in that spot and it doesn't make any difference. Like I said, you don't even have to put the Dragonotics Engineer in here. I thought it synergized really well with Cauldron and kept Cauldron a little bit more relevant, but Cauldron's always relevant. It gets rid of your opponent's things. We used it to get rid of removal in one of our matches. We used it to get... I mean, this was a Reanimator match, and I didn't even get rid of their Reanimator target, but it still was viable for anything else he threw into the graveyard. Yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this.